up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself. This is a show. Billies our hope for to needless reason. Nobody feel left out is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes. WB. And all the things that will happen like dark blue skies. I love it make people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Billies, yeah. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Another day is here. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play a role, get where you need to. You can tune in for work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait? It's a time calling. It's a show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WB. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Another day is here. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place.
Morning and welcome to Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes, WUB at 3304 Amandala Drive, Sweet Southside, Belize City, directly from XTV Studios, simulcasting on Creme Radio, live streaming on XTV Belize YouTube and XTV Belize Facebook. It's Monday, May 5th, for the one way into Cinco de Mayo, and it's our time from now until 9 o'clock. We'll have the weather as soon as I finish the way I say right now, brought to us by the National Meteorological Service of Belize and the forecaster is Tariq Matthews. And then we'll have one short news brief this morning prepared by the newsroom, and then quick break, come back, open up the phone lines, and we could talk. So let's go straight over to see what the weather is going to be like besides hot. A dry season, you know, we only got two seasons, dry and wet, rainy. So that dry season, make we hear what they got to say. Breeze still the blow though. Weather time.
Good morning, Belize. Our latest radar imagery and surface observation showed cumulus clouds over the country with no rainfall activity observed. Mainly fair and warm weather conditions will continue. The 24-hour forecast is sunny with a few cloudy spells today and partly cloudy skies tonight. Showers, if any, will be isolated. The maximum temperatures for today will reach 89 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 97 inland and 84 up in the hills. There is a heat alert in effect for residents, especially those inland, are advised to stay hydrated and avoid outdoor activities as much as possible, especially during the afternoon hours. The lower temperatures for tonight will be around 82 degrees Fahrenheit along the coast, 74 inland and 68 up in the hills. The winds from the open sea will be from the east at 5 to 15 knots, and the sea conditions will be light chop. A high tide occurred early this morning at 5:30. A low tide will occur this morning at 10:41. Another high tide this evening at 4:51, and another low tide midnight at 12 o'clock. The sun rose this morning at 5:24 and will set this evening at 6:14. The moon will rise this afternoon at 12:49 and will set early tomorrow morning at 1:43. In the fire risk forecast, the risk for forest or bushfires will be high. The outlook for Tuesday and Tuesday night is for similar weather conditions. For a review of our forecast and other products, please visit our website at nms.gov.bz. With that, we end this morning's forecast from the Belize National Met Service.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989, Creme FM presents informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
The Belize National Teachers Union, BNTU, has announced their plans for a national demonstration to occur in Belmopan on Friday, May 9. The Council of Management of the BNTU met over the weekend to discuss the results of the national vote taken on Wednesday, where over 2,500 members voted to demonstrate. The Council also decided on the date to hold the national demonstration. The BNTU is demanding of the government an 8.5% salary increase, an increase of the minimum wage from $5 to $6 per hour, and an increase in the transfer grant from $1,200 to $1,500. This national demonstration is the first of the 3 planned phases that were decided by the membership should they be necessary. The second phase is a 2-day national shutdown, with phase 3 being a full-blown strike. Members are asked to wear their green shirts this week, while the public is asked to wear green on Friday to show solidarity. The demonstration is being held under the slogan, quote, "We matter. What affects me affects you," end quote. A man was injured in an early morning shooting near Croton Lane in the St. Martin, the poorest area of Lake Independence, Belize City. The injured man has been identified as 27-year-old Jimmy Rojas. He was transported to the KHMH for treatment. Rojas is known to the police as he was accused of being involved with the murder of Jose Matos back in January 2024. Matos was driving a GMC SUV and was dropping off 2 women on Farbers Road Extension near Grace Primary School when he was fatally shot. Rojas' father, Clay Utah, better known as Clay Monsanto, was also fatally shot last year. Tragedy struck the football community in the Twin Tongues on Saturday after news broke that 15-year-old Deshaun Nahera had drowned that afternoon. Reports are that Nahera drowned in the Macal River near San Ignacio and Santa Elena in Cayo, and despite efforts to revive him after his body was retrieved from the river, the efforts proved futile. Nahera was a member of the Santa Elena Royals FC and a participant in the Football Federation of Belize's high performance program. The Royals FC posted on their Facebook page on the loss of Nahera, stating, quote, "We're deeply saddened by what transpired. Deshaun was more than a player. He was a family," end quote. Police are investigating the incident. Belizean swimmer Davia Richardson has officially qualified for a spot in the 2025 Junior Pan American Games in Asunción, Paraguay, scheduled for August. Richardson qualified after an outstanding performance at the 2025 Long Island Challenge, which took place in East Meadow, New York, from April 25 to the 27th. Richardson qualified due to her performance in the 100-meter freestyle with a time of 1 hour, 5 minutes, 35 seconds. Richardson is also aiming to qualify in 2 more events, the 50-meter freestyle and the 100-meter butterfly. Richardson trains and studies in the U.S. and recently committed to attend Loyola University, Maryland, located in Baltimore. The Junior Pan American Games are held every 4 years and features athletes who are between 17 and 22 years of age. This year's games will feature over 4,000 athletes from 41 countries in the Americas who will be competing in 28 sports and 42 disciplines. And that brings us to the end of the morning news brief. You could tune in after WUB done 9 o'clock and listen to Creme Radio from 9 to noon. There's mornings too. I don't know, bag of commentary, jokes, laughs, community conversation. At 12:30, there's a full news package on Creme Radio. At 3 o'clock, there's a news brief, and at 5:15, they have a full news package. Here at XTV, full news package at 6 o'clock this evening. So for all XTV products, remember, go to XTV Belize Facebook page, XTV Belize YouTube page. We're going to take one quick break, come back, open up the phone lines, and after we time for talk.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989. The news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports.
Welcome back to Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's our time to talk. The number is 280-5848. 280-5848. I don't know when I land the number. Call and tell me something good. It's the first Monday of the month of May. Can you believe this month of May already? Week 19 of the 2025 Gregorian calendar year. Yeah, call and tell you something good. I know one of the good things that happened over the weekend. A number of Belizeans were recognized from different media houses based on University of Belize investigative journalism competition what they have every year. And our brother, he's an independent journalist, but we claim Marco Lopez won first prize for the Code Red and Blue that he had done environmental justice work. A number of Belizeans had worked with an environmental NGO. I'm sorry, I think they know, I think they know wait, Earth, I forget what the people in here, you know. But our international entity, news entity, women offer on grant and training to a number of Belizeans for the environmental justice news. And we got some really good reports from the Belizean journalist, and Marco Lopez won the first prize. He was in, was it last month? That was Reef Week. I think it was last month was Reef Week. And I know he was on WB talking about Code Red and Blue. So congratulations, Marco Lopez. As we know, Marco left a farm life. He's a farmer as well. So I had to try to see if they're willing to come on WB between now and Wednesday. This is my last week hosting. First time at the back of Zinc, going 19 years. First time I sit down in this teacher stuff for going, so my sixth week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sitting in for Brother Mose Hyde. He will be back next Monday, May 12th. He will be back for choo this time. And so, yes, that's the good news. Melanated brother with locks, farmer, stay true to himself, stay true to his family and community, come from working class people. Marco was once he was a journalist at XTV, work camera, the editor of the Mandala newspaper, brother. Really, it's beautiful to see an inner city black youth come from everyday working class people, determined for stay true to yourself. I can't trust that another thing now. Can't trust black youth. Proud and we have a lot of youths like that where I wouldn't say a lot. There's a number that we don't know about, but we have so much in it where because they never get the care, attention, especially black brothers, they love what they need. They get pushed out of school. That is a sort of system set. It's heartbreaking, it's sad. So when you get one Marco Lopez, yeah, we ring up a name, we celebrate her. When he win, we win. So big up for that. As you know, hear on the news just now that the Belize National Teachers Union have 3 plans of action to hold the government of Belize accountable. And so, I could call in and say how I feel about that. My question is, how they determine that the minimum wage should only go by $1? Like, what conversation they had with the wider Belizean public for do that? I mean, everyone since Conk by, I'm like, why don't just come up with $6 an hour? I don't know. I don't really want somebody from the BNT could call in and tell me how to come up with their numbers there. Like how much increase owner should I get? How to come up with their numbers there? I'm curious to know like how the CABSEC and we know how the CEOs then get that in 88,000 because Chester make I left commissioner of police salary for go take less as CEO at transport. So one person make all the CEO salary then gone up to my understanding, but if I wrong, I'm gonna call and correct me and I got a problem. But we really need to start the math, not the math. We as Belizean people need to really take a look at Belize's budget and make sense out of it. Like seriously, to say what a justification come for people get more salaries or get the salaries what they get, but then Belizean people for the $5 minimum wage. Like I really, if somebody know or text me or call me and teach me, make all of we could know how this to work because the math not the math for me. And so that as far as BNTU goes, remember last Monday when I had me to talk for damn near 2 hours. Not do that to me again, but don't worry, I got my book if I don't want to read. Marisol Maya tell me that she really like when I share the historical facts about Belize. I don't like use the word facts, because things when I said a fact could change, like them, I said the earth me flat and never did flat, but that I mean a fact. I like the word truth better. And some things are just true. I mean, there are some people I think there's some universal truths, but I feel there's some universal truths. So that's where I operate from. But from I gone Misal Kindergarten, from Wagner's Lane, then I gone St. John's the front, then I gone Alcine School when we family moved outside. I always like geography and history. They are my favorite subjects. The fact that I come and memorize like pages and notes help in a subjects like math I never my thing, history, geography, and science, because you had to take notes. So back then, penmanship was a thing. You take notes, and I could memorize pages, and I could memorize them. But then, I have to memorize all of them for people think I'm smart because I get good grades, but in a subject because I memorize. And if I'm going to learn, and I know that, when I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I don't know how I could memorize. I think the memorization, now that I think about it, that because for another child, like at age 4, 5, because at kindergarten it was the big production, the Bliss and the St. Mary's Hall for Miss Hall, like kindergarten, big production. So I was star because I could remember the lines. I just had that in me, and then it was nurtured. So that not I think was the other part, the seed get planted for me. I come and memorize pages when I get that primary school. I say all that to say, when I come back home in 2006, I start to hear this talking about the square miles. I believe that 8,667 square miles, and I say, I know from primary school it was 8,866. How can you go under 1 square mile more? And I don't hear nobody to talk about it. But that thing bother me. So I finally get a book where show that I don't know, I want somebody calling the number at 280-5848. This is a serious thing, How we gone from 8,866 square miles to 8,867. Where a 1 square mile come from? Show them the picture for me, please, Alexi. So, in a history of Belize by Narda Dobson, first page, it says the introduction, the land and its geographical features. Belize lies on the east coast of Central America and is bounded on the north by Mexico and on the west and south by Guatemala. Although situated within the northern tropics, it can be said to have a subtropical climate. The coastal waters of the Caribbean are shallow for a distance of 10 to 20 miles offshore and are dotted with small islets or keys which form a coral reef barrier. There are 3 other reef areas, the most easterly of which, Ternef, lies 45 miles east of Belize. This is my sentence. If the keys are included, the total area of Belize is 8,666 square miles. See that? If the keys are included, the total area of Belize is 8,666 square miles. From the Rio Hondo in the north, the River Sarstoon in the south, the country is 174 miles in length, and at its widest point between Belize City and Benquevejo is 68 miles in breadth. The country is about twice the size of Jamaica, and since it is slightly larger than the Republic of El Salvador, it is the second smallest on the American continent. So somebody please tell me. Now, I don't know about, and this is what I say, as research, different technology become available, things get updated. Now we know that based on, somebody just text me, make I say what I say. Oh, I just tell you what the person that texts I say. The person say, morning, just like the numbers of poverty, GOB say they cut poverty in half. Nobody asked how they came up with the numbers. unemployment at like 0%. Nobody asked how they came up with the numbers. Just like it is said that, quote, we good now, end quote, Belize has borrowed almost $3 billion. That is $3,000 million. Nothing tangible at sight. So that what a person share. There's a, I know I have to look for this thing. It's the map that shows Belize's territorial water. And the reason I bring that up is because the thing where we just now said at all, if you include the keys, that the total size is the maritime area. I don't know if you have it nearby, Alexei, but that the map will show the physical land of Belize, then it showed the internal waters, it showed the territorial seas, and it shows the exclusive economic zone. Now, the keys would have been for the most part in the internal waters. So I don't know how it will be according to Noda Dobson, and this book was, let's see when it was published. It was published in 1973. And so she did say, and I like, the front of the book, it said to the people of Belize, I like that. It said at the 8,866 square miles, including the keys, but that not go so. When I'm going to talk to Brother George Myvitt, UEF, UBAD Educational Foundation, and the Belize Federation of Fishers have monthly Belize Bluebond Community Awareness Zoom conversation because the state did not do it. And it's still important for we know the truth, know the information. So I asked George for make it tell we, because really we need to stop say 8,867 square miles, because I don't know where the other square mile come from. They are just the land mass of Belize. When we talk about the country, we need to start to claim all of we water. So I asked George what the size of the water. And he said that, let's see, there so what part I had the thing. I have it right down. I thought I had it. Okay, when I got a break, I will have to look for it. And if George, listen, George, you go call in and tell me. What I asked George for was for him to tell me the size, and most of this conversation initially, I think with Brother George too, the size of the internal waters, territorial waters, exclusive economic zone. What are the total size of all them waters, so that when we say what are the size of Belize, we add that on to the 8,867 square miles, so that we claim all of we waters. That we need to change the narrative and stop just saying what Sankey where colonizers left for we, and then we just sing the Sankey too. And then that make I question the people and what to teach. You see, this is how you know that for we education system never designed for work, and since it never designed for work, for the most part, it's not working. Because a part of learning, and a big part is literacy, is that you listen to what I tell you, and you think for yourself based on your lived experiences. We hear big people to say something we say maybe upon international news or upon social media, and I'm like, something not add up here. Because at my big age, and remember I'm Earth Strong on V Wednesday, and I'll actually be on the air for my Earth Strong. This is a first. For say, how come we never include the territorial waters? How, if anybody may say it before Moores and Brother George said it, because I don't know the first one to say it, I just pick it up a card and say it. How come nobody, I never hear that, we don't hear that talking, that not get corrected, you know, see no literature, you don't hear about no research, all them people that get in colonial papers known as degrees, how this not come up? And considering that we have one territorial dispute in front of the International Court of Justice, like these things matter, at least to me they matter. So, I mean, want to talk about that. Now remember, if you're not calling, and I ask you for calling, the number at 280-5848, we could talk about anything we want to talk about. I prefer the good news, but anything we want to talk about. Other than, I really don't want to hear no political campaigning. If you're loyal to political parties, you could stay loyal to them, but when you call, at least when I there, control yourself for say whatever you want to say without the advocate for nobody's support, no political party or for another pan that. So, so if you're not calling, then you don't know. I want to talk about Belize and I want to talk about African descendants, racialized as black people. One of the things where I find out too, where I never know, I may want to know how many Belizean people employed in our government services. That's that I want to know. Because, and then I may want to know how much money they make. So I can give you one quick, this is how I know. I can give you one quick rundown. You see, I tell you I never go at math. It's not one of my areas of strength. As I say numbers, I start to jump because I know I'm insecure about it. So we have to start to pay attention to numbers. And I think one number away, no, good with numbers because we're initial math teachers or arithmetic teachers. Some of them are never the best. Because when you find one good teacher, then I'm like, why? I wish I had a teacher like this when I'm younger. I'd have more confidence, I'd have better in this subject. It just made it better for me as a developing human being. So my understanding is, rough estimate, there are about 16,000 people employed by the government of Belize. There are rough numbers now, but if anybody will got better numbers, call and share. You have about 2,000 what they call open vote workers. You have approximately another 6,500, and then you have one additional 7,000 were established. That puts you at about 13,500. You have about 2,000 to 2,500 BDF, Belize Defense Force, and the person said that because they not keep count of deserters. That thought had never crossed my mind. The number of soldiers were just left the military, then just gone about their business. Then you have about 2,500 or so police officers, and then you have about 700 to 800 Coast Guard. So the amount of people were employed by the government of Belize, there are approximately 16,000 people. Now we have over 400,000 people. I don't want to know how much people the call centers employ. I know they're not the biggest employer in the private sector. Now, you saw the person text and say, like, government come out and say anything. They really say anything, and nobody, for the most part, the Chamber of Commerce may challenge them, but they're not the merchants. They're not the business people. They're not the bag of money people. They're not people where look out my position. Within one capitalist system was set up for the rich get richer and the poor get more impoverished. They don't look out for working class people. They don't look out for indigent people. People who live hand to mouth. And I'll call no name, right? But I hear a story recently. And this is why I want a lot of it, and not just me, really like storytelling. Why important for, if your elders still the wrong, for listen to them. One number of people who go on and get colonial papers or degrees really should have one obligation for come back and share that knowledge with people in our communities, because the community nurture we and birth with we get the opportunities where we get. I know I stretched the talking from Sunday Review, but I use the guest we had from Sunday Review yesterday as an example. His name is Brother Darius Figuera from Trinidad and Tobago. And the man's 70 years old now, but he is considered the expert when it comes to transnational organized crime federations in the Caribbean area. Now, the man said he one step from indigent. I know work from 2014. Because being aware of himself and him mixed race, but under the late, I think 1969, he said, Trinidad and Tobago, the Black Power movement, and a maternal granny, I think he said, make him know who he is as a person. So he conscious. And because he stayed true to himself and he never sell out to establishment like a number of people do, because that's how the system set out. The man can't eat, they take bread out of his mouth. They don't want to work with him. They don't give the respect where he earning at the field where he studying, and he useful for help with, but he want information, he want to share the knowledge where he gain to primarily working people in the Caribbean, because the transnational organized crime federation, the impact all our life, especially impoverished people. So I bring him up as an example for say somebody who take colonial papers known as degrees and stay true to himself and stay with the people in the ground. Similarly to, and there may be other people I don't know about, but there are not a lot of with it. So you have somebody like Evan X. Hyde, for example. When he come back with a colonial paper in 1968, he never got an establishment. I don't think establishment we want neither. He got to teach and was instrumental in the creation of United Black Association for Development, the first homegrown, grassroots, African awareness, Black consciousness awareness organization in Belize. And then, well, with me, that the same thing. Not, make you get it straight. Me never come home, to stay home, work for Belizean people. That was not my intention. I know that I'm my calling, but that was never my intention at the time. That's how things work out. I may think I'm going back to the States and get my papers clear up. Following immigration attorney advice, I enter the United States. They hold me. I tell them the 2 felony crimes where I commit, saying that I was a U.S. citizen, which I was not. Voting in the elections, which I should not have done. Do me 6 months, 6 detention center, jail, 1 penitentiary, come back home. Send me back home, deported. And I'm done. When I come home in 2006, the most logical place for I come is Zinc Fence. I mean, I raised the Belize all of my life. I never born the Belize, but I come at 14 months. So for all intents and purposes, I am a naturalized Belizean. My parents are Belizeans. My grandparents are Belizeans. My great-grandparents are Belizeans. My great-great-great. So I just, like, my dad got an opportunity to go study, but my gone, born in England. So when I come home, I came home more aware of myself. When I left, I had awareness of my Africanness. When I come back with more awareness. So the most logical place to come is Zinc Fence, because we know Zinc Fence is the capital of blackness. That Belize, at least that's how I grew up knowing. So it's natural for I come back here, and then, you know, life evolved. I have been offered all kind of thing for left Zinc Fence, and I mean all kind of thing. I choose to live the life where I live, and I choose to stay at Zinc Fence, because that is space apart I could most of the work where I get banned for the purpose for the, and I for continue baton passed to me, work for the liberation of African descendants racialized as black people in the region, globally. Similarly to X, so X passed the baton to me. The point that I make is that if you don't know who you, somebody else will define you. And one part of knowing who I am, because, you know, I'm a product of the environment where I nurtured in, that I know about the country I Belize. So when I come back, I do want, and I never immediately started the research from Belize, years before I started the research from Belize. And then I started to find out things where I know they never tell me when I'm going to go to primary school, and I got it from primary school, I think 1979, if I'm not mistaken. I think I graduated from primary school, from All Saints. We done with the last students thing where wear regular clothes. Then the next year, they start to wear uniforms. And one of the things where I find interesting, what I never know, now, I know people like when I read from Discover Old Belize Tongue, and at the top, because of another call, the number is 280-5848. So make a look for, they're a shorter, I really have to check and see if they could republish them books. Make us tell them about this one. This is called the Honduras Free School. This is saying June 1807. Want to hear how long that? June 1807. So next year now, next month will be June, we'll make it 218 years ago in June next year. 218 years ago, And I want to think, no, I think they have a couple people who are 100 and something years old. So I just make the connection. This is called the Honduras Free School. In June 1807, 218 years ago, a free school for 10 poor children was inaugurated. And in October of the same year, a provision for an ordained schoolmaster was effected. This is from Archives of Belize, page 7. It is, however, not clear where these 10 children were receiving their education. The Honduras Free School, on the other hand, was established adjacent, so near, to St. John's Cathedral on Back Street. Now, Back Street, that what we call Albert Street, Front Street, that what we call Regent Street, are now De Menita Gordon Street. So adjacent to St. John's Cathedral on Back Street, on February 19th, 1816, so the Honduras Free School was established near St. John's Cathedral on Albert Street on February 19, 1816. The instructions were based on Madras system, the Honduras Almanac says so in 1829, page 238. John Lloyd Stevens observed, quote, "The Negro schools stand in the rear of the government house, and the boys' department consisted of about 200 from 3 to 15 years of age and of every degree of tinge, from nearly white down to 2 little native Africans bearing on their cheeks of the scars of cuts made by their parents at home. These were last taken from on board an enslaved ship captured by an English cruiser brought into Belize, and as provided by the laws, and on a drawing by lot, fell to the share of a citizen who, entering into certain covenants for good treatment, is entitled to their services until they are 21 years old." Morning, thank you for call. Talk to me. It's going to be on Wednesday, May 7th.
Okay, I wasn't sure, but best wishes in advance. But the reason why I asked is because my second home Mexico supposed to celebrate today at the fighter. They call it the
Cinco de Mayo.
the battle at Chapultepec. So I said, if it was today, I said, what a coincidence that this to fight for justice and equality was born and again and was a very big battle in Mexico by young people. That's why it's called Niños Héroes, Heroes. And the other thing, I want to know if you, whenever you have time, if you elaborate or find out a little bit about that, we discussed the last week in regard to most risk and well African people.
About what?
You mentioned something about most risk people.
Yes. What about it?
No, because I'm very much interested. I've been studying these situations for many years, and this is the first time I hear it.
I hear you, brother. Okay, thank you. The brother asked about I had mentioned that the Arabs enslaving African people from the continent of Africa for a longer period of time than we knew about the terminology that people will be familiar with is a transatlantic slave crossing. I don't use that. Like my brother Akko said, the transatlantic never enslaved nobody. European people enslaved African, primarily majority African people from the continent of Africa. They were kidnapped and human trafficked is the truth that I say when I talk about that particular enslavement of African people. But people don't know about the longer enslavement of African people by Arab people. Now, anybody who is on the continent of Africa, would I know deeply melanated people, are children of enslavers and colonizers. Yes, they band, so because they band their nationality, if you're band Belizean, naturalized, you're Belizean. But the original people on the continent of Africa are melanated people. We could stretch talking about it. I happened to have them books with me this morning. And Sister Sandra Coward, I mean, again, one of the people, and we're bringing that up over and over again, that the enslavement of African people by Arabs who are known to be Muslim by faith. And remember, I said Muslim, that organized religion, just like Christianity, just like Judaism. Then there are three organized religion: Judaism, Muslim, Christianity. So I always, and people have one right for choose whatever faith they want to choose. That the people right, and not to quarrel with nobody, their business. They work for you, right for you. As an African person who is aware, I follow African spirituality. I always, and people, depending on what's available to you at the time, that might be the faith that you choose. You have a responsibility for grow, develop, and again, if it works for you, it right for you. I always raise my eyebrow when I meet, well, not always, but as I grow and learn, when I meet people who identify as conscious people and they're followers of an organized religion, I raise my eyebrow, but that ain't business. Anyways, make a finish read where to read just so. So, what I'm going to share, they had a school in the Honduras Free School. And in June 1807, they had a free school for 10 children that was inaugurated. And then in 1816, 209 years ago, they had one school in the Honduras Free School. And according to one man named John Lloyd Stevens, more likely one European, and that he talked from a male European racialized as white person, that he said they had the school had made it to the back of the government house. They had one boys department of about 200 boys, ages 3 to 15, and they had all different complexion, from nearly white to 2 native African. We had, as some of you may know, in some African cultures, they would have markings on their face to identify with the nation or tribe they're from, for rites of passage reasons, for different reasons. And then, and they said they had 2 native Africans bearing on their cheeks of the scars of cuts made by their parents at home, that they're enslaved people, that then get them off on one enslaved ship where the British get them, bring them to Belize, and the last say that then I draw a lot. And how I understand when I draw a lot, you know, like you have like 5 popsicle stick, but one of the popsicle stick broke. So that popsicle stick one shorter than the rest. But when they put it like in their hand, all of them look the same height if you have much stick. And then everybody pull one lot. And then the person will pull the one where like they broke the stick. Then you that the person where, in this case, would have like first preference at enslaved people. And so he said, then draw a lot, and then one citizen enter into one covenant for citizen for get good treatment. And that then the children, for example, have to work for 21 years without being compensated, free labor. It said, unfortunately, the master was not present and I had no opportunity of learning the result of his experience in teaching. But in this school, I was told, listen to the prejudice now, white supremacy. I was told the brightest boys and those who had improved most were those who had in them the whitest blood. The mistress of the female department had had great experience in teaching. She told us that though she had had many clever black girls under her charge, her white scholars were always the most quick and able. Now, this is 209 years ago, you know. Belize City with the top about. Caddy also noted in his memoirs that, quote, the free school is under the immediate superintendent of the rector, so the Anglican now, church. The clerk of the church is also the schoolmaster to the male children. The females are under the care of a school mistress. Upwards of 100 are thus given the rudiments of a religious education, page 22. He also said that there's also a school attached to both the Wesleyan and Baptist missions. Pendergast, page 21 to 22. No, this that 209 years, 218 years ago. And that's why I give thanks. I spent most of my life, young life, past outside Belize City. And we had a Maui walk street with the children and they do community work. So Southside has always and will always be sacred grounds for me. And so this again, that's Southside. This is by St. John's Church. So I've said before publicly, And something I really need, I did this so much though. On a call anytime, 280-5848 is 7:24. In 6 minutes, we're going to our first break for 2 cents come. That there's and years ago, I mean, maybe like 2008, I remember when I was working actively as a traditional journalist, I met someone who said that they have this whole it's cultural tourism. And at the time when I meet she would tell me that you should do it. That they have spaces where they have, they have footprints and then I paint the footprints black. But that if people would have more experience of what happened to African descendants, now racialized as black people, from the continent of Africa through the Americas, for know the experience they had. And Belize City, which was then Belize Town, that made ground zero for African people, mixed race people, for this country. Given indigenous Mayas, it is documented, Media first, depending on the time period you look for, because then you could go back to the Olmecs who came before the Maya, and clearly African features. But I'm not going to argue that point this morning. So we're talk about Belize Town and why Southside that sacred territory is. Not that we never do think for North side, but Southside I mean ground zero. So I read from Discover Old Belize Town Sites and Places of Memory by Andofe Joe Eo. Make I say if I have one. Another shortly, another shortly, because someone is long, where I could share in the next 5 minutes, it might be relevant. Okay, make I say, if I could read this in this long though. That one long, I have to come back because that one really relevant right now, and I wait for no. All right, I just want to read this first one. It says, sources of old Belize Town history. It is generally difficult to portray an accurate history of old Belize Town. This is largely because, quote, the early period of the history of Honduras cannot be ascertained, as most of the records prior to 1765 and many of those for some years subsequent to that period have been lost, and those that remain until about 1789 are much decayed. This has arisen from the effects of war and the invasion in April 1754, called the Battle of Laboring Creek, at which the Spaniards from Petén were defeated by the settlers and their enslaved population, and my wording, and particularly that of 15 September 1779, when the Spaniards came suddenly upon the colony, routed and carried away most of the inhabitants and all they could have found. Honduras Almanac 1828, pages 62 to 63. In fact, the Honduras Almanac stressed that, quote, in the ravages of that period, most of the ancient records were lost, and what were saved were carried away to Jamaica. After the colony was resettled in 1784, I want to come back and stretch talking. After the colony was resettled in 1784, the remains of them were brought from that island, but on the 2nd September 1787, at 3 o'clock, a dreadful hurricane desolated the settlement, destroyed almost every house and considerable property. A number of lives were lost on this occasion, as also many of the public records and papers. Hurricane Ina 1787. How much do we know about a hurricane? And I know we talk quite a bit about Hurricane Hattie and the 1931 hurricane. But how much I would know about the 1787 hurricane, that 238 years ago. So my question is, who, or as in one person or groups of people or an institution in Belize, who, when, and why determine what will be the story about how this country get formed? Who make the decision? For say we and teach this, what we and teach. I mean, from a Mandela newspaper that made a way that WUB communicated with Belizean people and has always been strongly supported by the people, got them by the paper. And from them boss, then they make African, at the time they say Indian, and indigenous stories need to be told. The majority of Belizean people either come from indigenous people or from African people that this country, as would be the same for a number of the Caribbean countries, depending on who that then colonize as well, or part and geographically located. So who determined that? For most of our life, like my years at school, I believe, we get European history. So like when you hear Sister Sandra Cowie Carlin, like she, the one of the Belizean people were, and people of her generation, like they know, and Sister Sandra Cowie would have known more than most because she do additional studying. She's been a teacher for years, well-traveled, well-researched, foot on the ground, activist. Like, she the one generation before me. And so the person that, and a black woman at that, she the wear a natural afro when they never want popular thing for them, they never want cool thing for them. So every generation, it might just be a handful, but that believes with it about, had such aware and conscious being. But we don't know for we stories, so a big part of our oppression is we don't know ourselves. And the worst of our part is we have no desire to know ourselves. We want close with eye and take our last breath. The singular narrative where somebody tell we about we, and we not open for here and nothing else. That's how you know the miseducation system has really worked well as it was designed to do. That's 7:30. I get one call. Carla, thanks for calling, and I hear a request and I see what I could do for you between now and Wednesday. It's 2 cents come time. 2 cents come is brought to us by Fort Point Security, and Harlan say the lone new 2 cents come we and they get. Big respect, Brick City and Harlan.
You're watching WB, and this is XTV and Mother's Day. They come up so you don't know. Then woman out here, somebody wants some special Mother's Day gift, somebody wants some hug, somebody wants some, only God knows. The mothers, you're getting when they ask for. All right? Look at find all the people in 2 cents per night.
That's why I take it for what I keep you to a ticket, that's it.
For Mother's Day?
Yes.
That's your Mother's Day for the
Yeah.
All right, that's your 2 cents.
That's me to say.
All right. What you want for Mother's Day? Be honest.
Well, whiskey.
You sure?
Yeah.
That's what you want for Mother's Day?
Our phone.
Our phone? You're sure?
Sure.
All right, so when it comes close to Mother's Day, that's what you want?
That's what I want.
So what you want for Mother's Day?
Honestly,
Be honest. What do you want for Mother's Day?
anything because I dey try fix my house but now 2 years. And I show you a picture, see me because anything I appreciate.
Pay up towards your house.
Yes, anything. And now anything I appreciate. And now I put it out there and I say exactly. I need anything.
All right.
Right?
Thank you.
Okay.
What you don't want for Mother's Day? What you don't want for Mother's Day?
The only thing I don't want for Mother's Day, the wali appreciation with flowers. I love flowers.
Any special place you want your flowers from?
In any special place, as long as they have like Marvin there, I like flowers and yellow in there too. Only that.
Only
that I want.
And then I could put the leaf white.
I like flowers, so that's why.
You want it in a bunch?
Yeah, well, leaf bunch with a leaf, you know? Or a leaf container with it. Nice.
That's the way you want for Mother's Day?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
I don't want nothing much.
All right, thank you. We don't give a wife for Mother's Day.
Why, my wife, I can't tell her that because then I know what she know, but that's something very special, you know, a little trip.
All right. Don't let the cat out of the bag. What do you want for Mother's Day? What do you want for Mother's Day?
That's our key trip. Me and my husband.
That's your Mother's Day, you don't want?
Yeah, me and my husband were spending.
Day, I know Mother's Day, everybody getting a little gift. What you expect for this Mother's Day?
Me? What I want for Mother's Day, I want my daughter to come back home. That's the only thing I want for Mother's Day.
That better be a good Mother's Day gift too?
The best with my grandbaby there.
Don't say.
Yeah.
All right.
to Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes, the people's station. So in fact, we have community conversation and we could call Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes 280-5848. Talk about anything you want to talk about. And right now, well, I just share about Belizean stories where we oftentimes not get in the classroom. And the question is, who decided for not put it in the classroom? Why didn't decide for not put it in the classroom? And who the benefit from we not knowing our own stories? So, the long one I tell you no matter now where I want to talk about, the Halova. Now, when they put the new bridge, before the bridge get inaugurated, you have right to the state and said that the bridge should be called the Ibo Akan Bridge. Ibo Akan are people from the continent of Africa. Well, the census show that we have a large population in the Belize. And when it comes to that physical location in the country, because they float down Laguna and Mahogany, down the river, then you have the mouth, where you meet the Caribbean Sea. But then, if you notice, when you come from Ladeville, coming to Belize City, now that they take down the bridge, the old bridge, you can see it even better. If you look to your right, there one bushy area, but you see one cut, and that one creek, and that the Halova Creek will run from there under Belcan Bridge, and the Youth for the Future Drive Bridge, and the Swing Bridge, and then bust out the Caribbean Sea again. So that's why, in our fairness, you see how they name that school part the old Belize Technical College there, where we know so one graveyard there, one Maya name. Then we can ask if we want to have one Maya name. Then just give it to a Maya name. So because I watch there and I learned from that, I make sure before they bring up any talking about name bridge, I make them know that should be the Ibo Akan Bridge. So then they decide to just name it the New Halova Bridge, which is very colonized. They like talk about they like use the word decolonized, but the action very colonized. Like it's a very colonized thing to tell Belizean students that you can't come to school with your natural hair, how you grow to your head, as long as you want to be. Or African descendants racialized as black people, you can't come to school with locks, bantu knots, cornrow, extensions as a protective hairstyle as long as you want. That one violation of the Constitution. The state aware of the violation. Former Minister of Education, Chief Education Officers, and Chief Executive Officers of the Ministry of Education just come out and give lip service and said they're a violation. But they're not put no law in place with penalties so that if anybody violates it, they want to pay one extremely high fee. That's how you know then just talk decolonization. So anytime I talk about our bridge, I still call it the Ibo Akan Bridge. So now I'll give you a story about the Ibo Akan Bridge, or that location. In April 1755, an engineer was sent to help to build and arm a fort at the Halova. Haul over, like you haul something over, and a small detachment to be camouflaged as baymen to man the fort. So they send an engineer in a, remember now, it's on a call at any time and change the conversation. But if you're not calling, then you know I want to talk about my favorite subject, African descendants racialized as black people. So 270 years ago, and on the notice, I like writing a book. Because it helps to reinforce what I'm learning. And then when I want to find something, I could find it easy because I write big. So April 270 years ago, last month, 270 years ago, they sent one engineer to build one fort at the Halova. And they had a small detachment, I guess like one small platoon, camouflage, then they pretend to be baymen. And then they say how Spaniards come and burn down the houses and destroy the provision ground. Now, I could just read it in English, right? Because, well, that's how I write. But one of the skill sets we had to develop, that while I read it in English, but say it in a Creole, because to me, just, it relatable in a Creole. Now, I am not good at reading Creole. When I like text in a Creole, but like later we make up for one spelling a Creole. Yeah, I know they got one English Creole dictionary, but you know, I make up my own Creole. So we're going along, right? So they're saying that 1786. Now, anytime I had to tell you anything that because I had to quickly go to my calculator and do the subtraction. I'm surprised I know usually I had to write them thing down when I read it. So this one will be 239 years ago. So 239 years ago, they had a public meeting. And so today they consider it to our legislature. And the members at a public meeting agreed to build one good house for the superintendent at this Pars Point. I think the superintendent named Despard, upon the Belize River near the mouth of the Halova Creek. So this, no, remember, this is at 239 years ago. And when I tell people how alive history is, that location still there. I tell you now, enter, come over the bridge for Ladyville, go in the Belize City, look to the right. And the Belize River flow into the Halova Creek. And that Halova Creek, some people just call it river, but when I go and cover La Ruta Maya, the one time Zinc Fence cover it, and I make sure we don't cover it again. We did such a good job. All women did the coverage. That's how come I found that the correct wording for that body of water, the Halova Creek. That's not a river, that's a creek. And I see some historical records will still mention it as a river. So you look to the right, you could see it. Now this is at 239 years ago. So just for giving us some relevance, right? So then gone and build one good house for the superintendent at this Pars Point, upon the Belize River near the mouth of the Halova Creek. The Halova Bridge upon the Northern Highway, at the time they're like 5 miles now crosses the Belize River at or near this Pars Point. At a public meeting, they agree that £500 per year will be this Pars salary, and they want to provide one official pit pan, like one big long dory, and paddlers from, I guess, when they want to bring a funding into Belize Town. It said the Honduras Almanac of 1828 say the chief military station was at Halover, and there the superintendent resided. Then it said that how one cattle road run from the southern mouth of the Belize River to the Halover. And then finally the document said that beside the military station, they never had no other building than the Halover. The same document said that the Lieutenant Governor called to the attention of the Honorable House that they know they make efforts for build one road from Halover. In 1839, so this one be 1 year after the liberation of legal chattel enslavement of African descendants racialized as black people now. So that one be 186 years ago. The Halover was described by John Caddy, the branch of the river from Belize to haul over. Then call it so because when then they bring cattle and they carry cattle to Belize, they want to drive it across through the mangrove swamp for a distance of 4 miles. And they said they had a road was clear on the right side, where during dry season it's passable, and then come and drive cattle along it. So they run the cattle through the mangrove, and then they haul them over, I guess, the creek. The creek or the river, I'm not sure. I can read it to you in English. I've never been sure of this. I want to tell me, I want to go call me, 280-5848, and tell me how I understand it. The Halover is described by John Caddy in 1839 as the branch of the river from Belize to haul over, so called from it being the place where the cattle taking to Belize are driven across, runs through a mangrove swamp for the distance of 4 miles. A road has been cleared on the right side, which is passable in the dry season. And indeed, cattle are driven along it at all times of the year. So to me, that sounds like the Halover Creek, because they run it along the Halover Creek, because they don't got no road, and in a dry season, then passable. So that they bring it across, how I understand it, but you could correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, we can continue. It said nothing more monotonous than this part of the river until they reach Halover, where the principal mouth opened to the sea. And then they say they have 2 channels already with me. I already mentioned several smaller ones. Now, me, I don't see people, but I know I hear Moza, Sister Sandra Cowie, then talk about the channel. When we're part of Belize River enter into the Caribbean Sea, they have some channel there. Me, you know, I like boat captains, they always amaze me. I don't know no water like that. But anyways, it says, this is something Sister Sandra Cowie, the first person I hear said this. It said the quality of the alluvial deposit from the river caused a lot of shallowness that the water shallow for a lot of miles all the way out. And it appeared that the whole part of the coast from Halova to Belize, that one Delta Island, what keep increasing and farming. So then it said, and forming. So because of the deposits, when the river run, I guess it bring all the sediments, mud, sand, water, debris, branches, leaves, because that come, I guess the current, so me to overstand it, but if I'm wrong, that's what I know better on a call and tell me, that when that the dump out over years, hundreds of years, it create like, it start to build up until then the water shallow along the coast from Halova area into Belize City, how I understand this. It said the archives of British Honduras in 1809, they said the superintendent lived in our house when not belonged to the government, and that it required a pit pan for communicate with the one that Belize tongue. And in November 1827, the Halova Road made clear, and up until 1863, the only means to travel the Belize tongue, that made the river, and in a dry season by the bush path. Again, this is a Belize story. They're a thing where we ought to know, and well, nobody never take it, make them business for tell way. So when you have somebody like, example, Sister Sandra Coe, myself, other people will give an opportunity to get colonial papers, come back and share the knowledge. So when you are the producer and host on the review from, I don't know, was it 15 years? And because of my lived experience, one lot of what I share, that because, well, I learned it, so I share it. And that's important for people to go get knowledge. What are the use of having knowledge if you don't want to share it? It is so important that we develop our mindset of, for know ourselves, we need knowledge. I don't only get knowledge from colonial people. Make that be clear. Like one of my sisters say and other people say, one of the teachers that believes never get no colonial people, then get certification. That still one form of colonization, because they're not like lone black people may teach, forget their certification. So before they had degrees, you get certificates. That's still colonial training. I could be clear on that. And so the value of knowledge, and then not everything we read you just believe. How I determine if this is something credible? Who write it? What may be happening in the world at the time? What is person may live at the time when they write it? Where they getting money from for write it? What are people known for those, especially when it comes to African descendants racialized as black people, or indigenous people or descendants of indigenous people? So remember when I read that first part just now, when I tell you what I'm going to emphasize, I'm going to pay attention to the part where say that, make I read the sentence again. This has arisen from the effects of war and the invasion in April 1754 called the Battle of Laboring Creek, at which the Spaniards from Petén were defeated by the settlers and their enslaved population, and particularly that of 15 September 1779, when the Spaniards came suddenly upon the colony, routed and carried away most of the inhabitants and all they could find. Now, when I just sent this picture to this sister. Now, this book, really, again, one book, I have so much respect for Arando, for EO in particular. But this one is called Belize New Vision, African and Maya Civilizations, the Heritage of a New Nation. Like I say, I don't think I have, I don't know when this get published, I don't think they have, which I thought was strange. At least I don't see Tina what year this book gets published, but I really don't know what year the book get published. Anyways, it says the aim of the African and Maya history program is to make I could find that out then, is to make a substantial contribution to the formation of a positive self-identity in the generation of students in the school system. The objective of the African and Maya history program is to contribute to the redefinition of Belizean identity based on the contributions of African and Maya civilizations. The overall goal of the African and Maya History Program is to contribute to the building of an invigorated, assertive, self-enriching national Belizean identity based on the knowledge, wisdom, values, and norms of African, Maya, and Asian civilizations passed on to the present generation of Belizeans through their mothers and fathers. Okay, so there was an effort for bringing the knowledge forward. It never worked. But the three people that will put this particular text together, that were Aondorfe Joseph Ernest Eo, the current Governor General of Belize, Froila Salam, and Howard Francis Humphreys. Now, this is the thing where, and I know I asked Moses this question before, and he give me a really good answer, but I can't remember the answer now. But depending on your understanding, and I'm trying to go to far back. So I just want to put it in the context of Christopher Columbus, 1492, and then I'll bring we way forward to this particular text start that's 1695. So to make note of the time, right? 1695. So this is the first time I just say they are writing. Oh my goodness, they done time for got a break already. And we're not calling. So this started at 1695. So this is that 330 years ago. We talk about Belize story now, you know. 330 years ago. But we're going to break. I want to come back. I want to give another timeline. I know this is before the singular 10th of September narrative. So the backstory always important. And this morning and the next 2 mornings, I want to talk about Simon Lamb. Because August 1st, African Descendant Emancipation Day to come up. And we have the work with the state, seldom happen. But with the grow, still not trusting, real talk. And share more about Simon Lamb. Break time.
Prepare for the heat and stay cool.
back to Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes here at XTV, simulcasting on Crumb Radio, behind the zinc fence, 3304 Mandela Drive, Suite Southside, Belize City. Phone number 280-5848, 280-5848. Call, talk about anything. It's 6 minutes after 8. So what I share with you right now, the information, knowledge. When I come home March 2006, and in May I turned 40. So up to age 40, and even my 40s too, because I never noticed right away, I never noticed about Belize stories. And I know that one of them people will read one a lot more than, especially people of my generation. So now this is the story about Belize before September 3rd to the 10th, 1798, before the Battle of St. George's Key. And it matters that, again, if we don't know his story, other people want to find way. And especially considering the matter we have before the International Court of Justice. That's why I thought it was wicked of the UDP administration for influence Belizean people as they did to say yes to go before the ICJ, knowing that the people never have the knowledge for make one wise and independent decision. Worthless. But you don't gang a fella behind them people like who like me, because I've never voted in Belize, get incarcerated and deported for voting at U.S. elections, and I've intentionally, the only time I vote that for vote no to the ICJ, the only time I vote. Anyways, so I want to tell you about 1695. This is 330 years ago. So there are a lot of dates, right? But just for giving you a quick rundown, that the Spaniards, they used to come to Belize quite often, attack, because this was, and I tell you the different treaties, this was Spanish territory. It was known as Spanish territory. And then pretty much, how I tell the story, the British became squatters. And then, you know how you go after a squat for a number of years, then you claim it as for you. So it's titled, and this will be on page 294 of Belize New Vision, African and Mayan Civilizations, the Heritage of a New Nation. Alexei, please show the images that I sent for you. And actually, I'm going to do this during the break, but I'm going to do something else. So I'll try to hurry up and see if I could find. I look for the date when I start to teach African and Maya, I'll look for it during the break. For say that we're here, then do it. I think it's 2000. Well, I find a news report where say that then they expand the program, the Maya and African teaching. Okay, it was in 2004. So this initiative under the People's United Party started in 2004 for put African Maya knowledge in the school system. Now then, I want to call Belizean Studies, where I tell you in a reel. And I could tell you in a reel because I am a part of the working group, and we left when we found out that in a reel. Some people would have said better than nothing at all, that people position. So anyways, I telling about Belize stories before 1798, which are the Battle of St. George's Key. So 353 years ago, in 1672, Spaniards attacked British settlement in the Bay of Campeche and Honduras. And then the British were chased out of the Bay of Campeche. This is 1672. That will be 330 years ago. Then in 1695, Key Casina invaded. It said in 1695, Governor Yucatan Don Martin de Osua sent Captain Francisco de Ariza to remove, quote, the enemy pirates at the site of Cocinas, where they had infested the waters, end quote. That would be what we know as St. George's Key now. Captain Harissa carried out the instructions, so Key Casina, now St. George's Key, that made the target at the first invasion by Spaniards of Belize. That was 1695, 330 years ago. It said the Spaniard drive the Baymen away, and the Baymen are European people. I have to go find the, they're not just British people. They're never just British people are Baymen. And they had Scottish, I can't remember the rest. I'll look for it and tell you about it. So the Spaniards drive with the baymen, but they never stayed at the key. And that's one of the things why the British they keep squat. Because the Spanish people, they're Spaniards. I can stop calling them Spanish people. It's derogatory really to do that. Because the people that talk Spanish, we call them, they're Spaniards. That's the right thing for them. Just like how you're not for call other ethnic groups of people the names where some way hearing us calling like in the 70s, when I know better, you do better. So the Spaniards drive with the baymen, they never stayed at St. George's Key, and as soon as the Spaniards then gone, the baymen then come back. Some of the stuff that I write in, because as I read other things and I find dates when in this book, I just put them in between. So then I write in 1699, England declared that Honduras was not a part of the British Empire. In 1699. That's what England say, that Honduras are not part of the British Empire. Then in this book, it says in 1718, they had an overland attack from Guatemala. One military expedition from Guatemala failed to remove the settlers who put up one strong resistance. Then I have the estimated date of enslaved Africans, the Belize, 1718, like 307 years ago. Then in 1730, it's 295 years ago, it says retreat to Mosquita. The governor of Yucatan, Antonio de Figueroa y Silva, carried out one surprise overland attack. The settlers, they expect them to come assault them from the sea. Huts and ships transporting Palo de Tinta get burned down. Some of the baymen get captured. The one that were managed to escape gone to the Black River British settlement on the Mosquito Shore, or what they call the Mosquita, between the coasts of Spanish Honduras and Nicaragua. Then, in 1770, I have Rise of King Mahogany, and then Figueroa, under 1730, Figueroa y Silva died from a fever before the plans we had to occupy the Honduras settlement get carried out. And then the settlers who may run Ghana Black River come back. That is in 1730. In 1770, you have the rise of mahogany. Now, no said during that period, a lot of treaties they get signed and agreements to make between primarily European, racialized as white men. Then I have what is now? I don't understand my own writing. I don't understand what I write there. So then the next thing we're in this book, that's 1779. St. George's Key. Now, all of this happened before September 3rd, 1798, you know. So I have St. George's Key, 1779. In June of 1779, Spain entered into the American War of Independence against England. A part of the war plan was Spain had that we seize the Honduras settlements, what we now know as Belize. So by instructions from the governor of Yucatan, the commandant of Bacalar carried out one surprise naval assault with one fleet of about 19 ships. This is in June 1779. Next month I'll make 246 years ago. Listen to this. The Spaniards captured 140 baymen along with 250 of their enslaved people. I had to bring them a book for weeks and I had to read anything. So sometimes I just get tired of back the book there and I left it home. But I never prepare. But I'll make a note so I could tell you this tomorrow. Another things that excite me, I look for my African people. I look for them because I want to find out what happened to them. I want to tell their story because I for we people in that. And anytime I find them, whether I find them by name or just by identity as enslaved people, I celebrate them, I pray for them, I tell them say I find them, and I thank them for the sacrifice. When I walk from Vista del Mar to the Ministry of Education building from North Front Street, and I cross the Igbo Akan Bridge, I pour libation to my people because they sustain me, they protect me, they guide me. So I'm thankful for them. So I'm going to read another book, but I never bring the other book with me today. For so what happened to them, when they back with the Spaniards attack St. George's Key in 1779, and back with 140 of the European and 250 of the enslaved people. One lot of people made the upriver the plantation to work. I don't want to give the wrong number, it might be over 2,000. And another book I read say that that could very well be the largest number of enslaved Africans will ever run away because they never catch them one upriver. So I'm excited, and that's why I like read, because you find different things in different books. Only for I can read another book will say what a hard life they had when they get to Mexico, but I don't know if I got time for telling you all this story, but since you know the car, I want to tell you where I could tell you now. Also in 1779, this Spanish ship first transport, remember then back when 140 European racialized as white baymen and 250 enslaved Africans. Then transport them to Bacalar. After they get them to Bacalar, they march them overland to Merida, then to Campeche, and then they carry them and put them in some dungeons, the Havana, Cuba. One lot of them dead from hunger and exhaustion before they even reach Havana. This is 1779. You have to ask yourself, why we don't know this? Why we know for sing the 10th of September Sankey? Over and over. Still they go, that they walk up and down in the street, the one that will go, majority of them are young people. Why? Carla, thanks for calling and giving me out for a rest. Talk to me.
Good morning, YaYa.
Morning, brother.
I just wanted to ask you, was St. George's Key the first capital of Belize?
I don't know if I'd call it a capital, but that is space of administration to my knowledge. And again, I open to be corrected anytime, but to my knowledge, that was the first place of administration for the settlement. Remember one of the things I tell you, I tell everybody, that in 1699, England declared that Honduras settlement was not a part of the British Empire. And then maintained that for a period of time. So then it wouldn't be like, this, I tell the people they can squat from the Spaniards, then first they don't own property. This is I want a European point of view.
Okay.
The way we know indigenous people.
I'll listen to you off the air.
Oh, I appreciate your calling, brother, because sure you can make one song about them dates.
Yes, I used to listen to Patrick Rogers a lot, you know, and I get a lot of information from him.
Yes, you have to get one of them book.
Yes, I will.
I know, I want to see if I could get one for you, because you are definitely, and that's how people learn. You know, how, like, art, they're a big part of keeping culture relevant and alive. That's why I really appreciate, and that everybody I into are telling the real. Kenny Morgan books still up for sale, $20, the book of poetry. You could go to Imagination Factory and get it. And that's why I really appreciate some of the historical, I don't call them patriotic, historical songs where you sing really matter, brother. Brother, farmer, painter, sing, you do it all.
Yes, I dabble in a little bit of everything.
Big thanks, brother.
Yes, yeah.
One love, guidance. So I know to listen, right? And then, notice at 1779 now, and remember everybody never reached Havana because some of them dead from hunger and exhaustion. All the buildings that St. George's Key get destroyed, as well as the lagoon works and provision grounds on the mainland. No, this don't make sense to me. If they destroy the lagoon, well, I guess they couldn't, because I like, how could I never find enslaved people when I sent me the upriver? But it is say how they destroy the lagoon works and the provision grounds. But of course, when enslaved people know this one, wait for the people like back their way. In 1782, it's about, so then back then was 1779, 80, 81, 82. So about 3 years later, the prisoners get released from Havana and is sent in to Jamaica. 2 British warships recapture St. George's Key. Soon after the Spaniards them invade. The Honduras settlement remained abandoned for over 4 years until 1784 when the settlers start returning. Imagine my utter shock when I find out for 4 years nobody never left on this land. 4 years, you know. Now, besides knowing this story, because we have our right to know as Belizean, I remember me used to give, like the Creole version. There I don't have the original documents when the attorneys they use for go argue in front of the ICJ. And I said, Belizean, if we lose that case, and some people say there's a strong case we lose it. I know what I'm be the penalty, I don't know. If I find the Sibun down, I don't know. I had to put the words in the universe because I want it to happen. But we have to sleep with our own eye. We don't know the story of this country. So how are we going to vote if we, like Sister Sandra Cowie again has said, our borders may done define. So are we going to vote for make somebody define free borders, so when free borders done define? But see that the way people who got colonial papers, not everybody in politics got colonial papers neither, but especially they want this, so we're in a position of power and influence chance people. Take advantage of people because we don't have the knowledge. In the true sense of what ignorant means just not having the knowledge. Knowledge about a particular thing, I have knowledge about a lot of other things. Because anybody who could cook got more knowledge than me because I don't know if cook and I don't shame of that neither. So somebody who cook, I got mad respect for them, got skills and knowledge. They know what season work together, what don't work, then could sprinkle on without measure it, then could cut up thing without measure it, they don't have to worry when they put the pattern because they know at a certain amount of fire, if the fire hot or not, if you're on brown, if you're on then they have skills, then they have heights. You don't need no colonial paper for that. And so when you have knowledge, you have one duty for share. Because the more knowledge people have, and you feel good for you as an African descendant specialized as a black person, that's why I hold my head up on my back, my shoulder back, anywhere I go in the world, because I know who the for we people. The first in earth civilization, African people. I'm an African descendant. When I hear descendant, you know, say you're 100% African from the continent of Africa. Until you hear descendant. So, I can finish because I got 5 more minutes before the break time. And I'm almost done. Then it's saying, so remember now, the Honduras settlement remained abandoned for over 4 years until 1784 when the settlers started to return. All of this is before September 3rd to the 10th, 1798, you know. Then the next date, this is the last date they have, 1783. The Treaty of Versailles specified the boundaries of the Honduras settlement. From 1784 onward, the central area of occupation, okay, brother, so this is your answer to your question. St. George's Key was considered the central area of occupation because it said from 1784 onward, the central area of occupation shifted from St. George's Key to the settlement on the banks of the Halova Creek, so we're at Belize Town now. From 1784 onward. Make I do the quick calculation of that. Say I tell you no say. I don't know if I know math I know me thing. So for just to make no mistake, I hurry and can do the calculation and make sure I punch in the right thing. So we talk about 241 years ago, they signed that 241. No, that 240, from 1784 onwards, 241 years ago, I put this arrow here, the central area occupation shifted from St. George's Key to the settlement on the banks of the Halova Creek. It said, indeed, the first public meeting called, you see how I make a go. This is how I live my life. Make a go, but I not do it enough and that will run me into problems. Because now I read this, and it said that it gave the date the 12th of June, 1784. The 12th of June. Yeah, I'm being Thursday this week. The first public meeting was called on the 12th of June, 1784. That 241 years ago that this was done. I take place at the Belize River mouth. So I think the Belize River mouth will be like a courthouse wharf there. Thereafter, quarterly courts also took place at the Belize River mouth, and the courthouse was built there in 1787. You see how you pick sense out of nonsense? So that's why that courthouse today. right? And then St. George's Key then, oh, I say, brother, you're right, brother. I never know. It says St. George's Key functioned as the first capital of the settlement was over. So, brother, you're right. It was the first capital. Yet the key would be the scene of the last and most significant military confrontation of the 18th century. So that's on page 295, brother, a book where I just telling about. Show them it again for me, please, Alexei. Belize New Vision, African and Maya Civilizations, the Heritage of a New Nation. Make I see that this one, yeah, so I want to see that. Did I? They have another book where really, like this book and the other book, I had to tell you, no, change my, I learned about Belize. And I know that true, I didn't write it, but I give mad respect to Brother Aondofe, Joseph Eo, as it relates to, also you have, I will have to show, you have this book. It's Free Your Mind, a community talk with Aondofe Eo, and this was done in collaboration with the Imagination Factory. It says, in recognition of the first African Emancipation Jubilee Day, public and bank holiday in 2021, that's why you have to tell your own stories. And Brother Eo was our virtual guest speaker. And Imagination Factory produced his notes as our African Emancipation Day guest speaker into an e-booklet, and then in collaboration with UEF, then print the booklet. We still have some for sale, $20 each. But one of the things where, and this, it says about this period, 1718, Negro laborers were first introduced from the islands of Jamaica, which was a major market and supplier of captive Africans in the West Indies and the North American colonies, and Bermuda, before which the whites, notwithstanding the baneful influence of the climate upon Europeans, appeared to have done just as much work. I'll read this last. No, I'll come back and read the other two paragraphs so we have time before the break. But Mark 1718, to the best of my knowledge, and I always stand to be corrected because I want to give the correct information, as the date when African descendants racialized as black people first get brought to Belize. And so this is why we, the descendants of those enslaved, and we also had free African descendants, and never just African enslaved people. We also had free people, the settlement of Honduras as well. So that 307 years ago this year, since, as far as we know, the first enslaved Africans were brought to Belize. 307 years ago. And again, Belizean people, if we don't know a story, anybody can tell you, and the more you know, you feel good by yourself. You develop confidence. You move differently. You think differently. You live differently. And you always stay grounded in a community. Because, you know, that's the African worldview. I am because we are Ubuntu. It's 8:30, break time.
Ya balisi.
Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's 8:35. Remember, next Monday, April 12th, Most High will be back in his seat Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to host Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes talk show known as WB. On could call at any time, numbered at 280-5848. So I'm going to tell you about enslaved African people and that they did had free blacks and we were called mixed people and calling colored at the time. And I mean, one telling no, man, I'm not telling no more about that. Make a look for. I like talk about with people in that Belize. I like look for Belize tongue. In make I say we are telling. Oh, this yes. Make I say if I got it mark. I tell you, I work with the book then, but I don't think I have it. I have it in this book. I will find out what part I have it marked though. How Belize, how Belize get its name. I will read from, I see it just now, ancestors show me. I think I just see it just now. Give thanks. All right, good. So in this book, Discover Old Belize Tongues, Sites and Places of Memory by Arndorfer Joe Eo, and this was published in 2005 by the Institute of Social and Cultural Research, ICR, National Institute of Culture and History, Niche, Regent Street, Belize City, Belize. It says how Belize tongue got its name. The circumstances surrounding how Belize get its name still problematic, similar to how the British first settled Belize, not clear. However, greatly agreed upon by scholars that some British privateers and pirates and others of different nationality, for some reason or other, escaping religious persecution in England, migrated for settle in some parts of the Caribbean and Central America. The early settlement, British settlement, also include Providence Island in the Gulf of Honduras, in the area between Cape Cartouche and the Bay of Campeche and Yucatan. And this took place in the first half of the 17th century, so the first part of the 1600s. Blah, 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 blah. And then I look for say, so in the top about what Belize get a name from. So he said the word Belize originally called by the Spaniards Wallis, derived from the name of, there are a different storyline where I said the name Belize come from. Derived from the name of a person named Wallis, a lieutenant among the buccaneers whom a family invested the sea. And it distinguished itself by acts of bravery and desperation, and the name, for his name alone, I mean, one terror to the Spaniards. They first discovered the mouth of the Belize River and make this harbor one place of retreat, where they named after him. The Spaniards pronounced the name and write it as Wallis, corresponding to, in their language, to the English name Wallis. And the English settlers afterwards, by corruption, made it Balis, or properly Belize. That's one version. Second version, the Honduras Almanac of 1839 said that Belize owes its origin to a Scottish chief of the name Wallis, a native of the Falkland. At the time, instead pirates get drive from Tortuga and chase them one small island, 1 few miles north of St. Domingo, which Haiti now, and that Wallis escaped the vengeance of the Spaniards. And for security amongst the numerous islands and the coast of Yucatan, I finally settled at the mouth of the Belize River. And then they put up a residence, make a few log houses, and then Wallis then build the log houses, now occupied by the handsome premises of Monsieur Boutias and Delandre. And from this adventure, the town get a name. So that's the second name when I said Belize get a name from. Thirdly, Asad Schumann, 1995, recently tied the name Belize to the Maya word Belakin, meaning land towards the sea. Baltis, meaning land of the Itza. Beliz, meaning muddy waters. Now, they have one footnote where say, there are no records of indigenous groups in the vicinity of Belize town before its occupation by the British and enslaved Africans. PA means in his history of the Spanish conquest of Yucatan, from Villa Tierra, 1701, observed Tipu, a village occupied by an indigenous group on Boots River, was visited by 2 Franciscan fathers from Bacalar in 1618. the inhabitants were already Christians. If you got time in the next 2 years, I want to share more about that with you. But this is interesting. I never remember reading this footnote before. There are no records of indigenous groups in the vicinity of Belize tongue before its occupation by the British and enslaved Africans. And we're going to read that fact now. Wasara, when it comes to Belize tongue, and the whole tongue, you know. But until I know why I claim to the south side Canada part and put the African and enslaved African people. No indigenous people, no historical records. So Yaso, Belize tongue, definitely. Black people space. It goes on, it says, David Hernandez dismissed all the above versions and with evidence demonstrating how the name Belize was derived from an African river and village in the Cabinda province of Angola with the same name, pronunciation, and spelling. Again, I tell you now, I never know, say, I may undo this because if I may know I may undo this, then I may want to take this picture right now. Where are they? So now, when I say how things happen behind the scene, I want to take the picture, send it to my people in the XTV studio, and then they want to show it on the air. And that's the beauty of when your own media house and your people got the interest of African descendants racialized as black people, because I want to see the map of the continent of Africa. Now, I could say the first person when I hear say this is a brother Nui Akbar. He's not the first person I hear say it. For me, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that the name of this country, Belize, B-E-L-I-Z-E, that from an African origin. See, I want to read it. You want to see it on the map right now, and then you go check it for yourself. Not take nothing while I tell you for gospel. Go check it on yourself. The person named David Hernandez, 1990, has dismissed all the above versions and with evidence demonstrated how the name Belize was derived from an African river and village in the Cabinda province of Angola. When they're watching the screen, with the same name, pronunciation, and spelling. It is, however, noteworthy here to mention that enslaved Africans from the Cabinda province of Angola probably changed the name of the river without a fixed name from Wallis, Balis to Belize, since they were already familiar with a river with the name Belize spelt and pronounced as Belize back in Africa. Evidence derived from both censuses for the enslavement period and other writers of the period testify to the fact that among the different ethnic groups or tribes or nations that dominated the enslaved African population in Belize, Angolans formed a sizable number. Indeed, available evidence suggests that up to 1850, descendants of enslaved Africans and others were Medera Belize as recaptive. These residents, the one that were rescued from enslaved ship and brought to settle the Belize, still identify themselves according to the ethnic group. This is up to 1850. Nobody never made say in a Creole. They said in an African. Up to 1850. And one of the things about the enslavement of African people by European people, what distinctly different is because African people melanated often have one particular physical feature because then they're below the equator and their body adjusts to the environment. The whole you could identify your African racialized as black. So beyond the shadow of a doubt, people are known based on their landmass, their language, their culture. Nowhere in the world named Creole land. Nowhere in the world named Garifuna land. So you have the right to identify how you choose. That is your human right. The more knowledge you have, the more you could think for yourself and choose for yourself. And if it works for you and you not create harm to nobody, it's right for you. What I keep my eye on the clock. It's said that up to 1850, I believe. And many are recorded as Mongolas from Angola, Congos from the Congo region. Morning, talk to it.
Good morning.
Morning.
Sister lady.
You know what I love about Belizean people? No, but that's okay. I okayed it. But you know what I love about Belizean people? that they call me whatever they want, sister lady, that I want you and talk to me. Remember my name just now?
Okay.
Talk to
I
me.
forget the name, but at least I will present lady.
Respect, brother. And I'm not a lady though.
Sister.
Go ahead, though. Sister, you can't go wrong with sister.
Okay.
Tell me.
You know what I want to know? I want to know when the Labud cutters for England against back the peace alarm to cut land. I understand some part of history say about that the whole Sartuna crossed on the land in Guatemala where they buy. And I understand too again that the people in our area, they say, we don't want to be no British subject and then make a lot of noise. And I understand again that the Labud cutters drift back to center of the Sartuna. That's why I see it clearly why Belize border is straight from south to north. Straight line. I think going to be our border. I think going to believe our border line like that. And I think I kind of believe that story. Yes, the Labud cutters bought in Guatemala, but because of the people over there don't want to be British subject, they decide to say, you know what, we'll bring it back to the center at Sartuna. So Guatemala owns the left side and we control the right side. Am I correct or correct me? Good morning, sister.
Thank you. I appreciate your calling and study history like that. I never heard that story before, but I'll make it my business tomorrow to go look on some of the treaties. I know nothing why I'm really interested in it, but I'm going to look on it and then I'll make some sense and come back and then listen tomorrow morning and then we'll try to make sense out of it together. Brother Gan. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, and so I say we'll talk about enslaved, free, identified as colored Africans, that Belize. Up to 1850, they still identified based on the ethnic group where they come from. And the census records show that we had a lot recorded as Mongolas from Angola and Congos from the Congo region. So when you see the injustices, the murder, what happened at the Democratic Republic of Congo, for we people in that. Then another people where they sip on TV by your screen. Then for we ancestresses and ancestors that. Since they had so many enslaved Africans that Belize from the Cabinda province, Angola called Mongolas. That's what they call the people in front of area Mongola. It is unlikely that they would have connect this river without one standard name with the one that they're familiar with back to Africa. This never unusual. And they said this evidence based on the case of enslaved Africans of Igbo extraction who may able to name one whole section as Igbo tongue. And it said not beside the point to suggest that enslaved Africans of Angola extraction may capable of naming a river in Belize after a river in Africa and that they were familiar with it. In fact, you have many other places in Belize with African names such as Quemana, Q-U-A-M-I-N-A, Queamina, and Quashi Creek. Now, this other book, the Belize New Vision, African and Maya Civilizations, the Heritage of a New Nation, it tells you even more where you have, so make I read this quickly, I got a few minutes. It says, for example, Igbo tongue was named probably, given to a section of Belize tongue by enslaved Africans of Igbo ethnic group. Igbo tongue was described as, in 1850, that it consists of one number of yard space, with one lot of rows of what they call Negro houses, being simply separate rooms under one long roof, which used to be used for enslaved people and now accommodated impoverished laborers. This is up to 1850. Similarly, Anansi, the hero in our folklores that survived the Belize, the one testimony at the initiative of enslaved Akan Ashanti population. In fact, Akan names present in the census records between 1790 and 1832. They also have places where indicate the dominant position of the Akan Ashanti in the overall enslaved African population in Belize. And when we have sent a letter to the ministry, forget the Moist ministry, for say that the bridge should be named the Igbo Akan Bridge. So when you start to call it that year, stop call it the Halover Bridge, call it the Igbo Akan Bridge. You had a whole area in the Igbo tongue, and here I just share it to know. We had a large, based on the sex of record, on a lot of indigenous Africans who were of the Akan ethnic group. So that's the Igbo Akan Bridge. Make sure you call it so here. I know, that's what you call decolonization. Anyways, it's a, so to show you the connection between those groups of Africans, enslaved Africans, and how they left their mark that this country we know as Belize. It said, place names include Africa in the Orange Rock district. If anybody know where Africa is at Orange Rock, please tell me about that place, because I don't know about it. Bomba Bank in the Belize district. The name Bomba is of Bantu origin in Central Africa. Fuipa Banda Bomba. You see what the connection? Hey. Nago Bank, also in the Belize district, the name of Yoruba origin in southwest Nigeria. Kojo Lagoon in Korizal district. The name is of Akan origin in modern Ghana. Kweko Creek of Akan of modern Ghana. Kwashi, Akan of modern Ghana. Kuyamina, Akan of modern Ghana. Kuyamina Creek. Above all, David Hernandez has traced the name Belize to a tiny African village and river of the same name, spelling, and pronunciation to the Cabinda province of Angola in Africa. Unuko say 101. Far as I can concerned, the name Belize is of African origin. Now, you know what I was strange? B-E-L-I-Z, spelled the same way, pronounced the same way. One river name so, and one territory name so, Cabinda province of Angola on the continent of Africa. What I want to know? African name, the whole country. Break time.
You may not get
up. Somebody text me and say, I in at a range, but the number of workers in the government service is about 17,500. Thanks, brother, thanks. And so, thanks for listening. Thanks for the people who are calling. And remember, this show will repeat at 3:30 this evening. You can go to XTV, YouTube Belize, XTV Belize Facebook page for listening to any of we programming. Share the link. When I came in this morning, the security guard, Roger Rushford, known as Rafa. Thanks for going to get me food. Thanks, Kim, grab and go from Mahogany Street. And then right now it's Shane Flowers, the security guard. The technical director here at XTV was Alexa Belisle. Thanks, Alexa, for showing them pictures. And then the senior engineer, the Clifton Lois, I got blank, but I had a senior moment. Brother Cliff, thanks. And then downstairs at Creme Radio, we have Larry Guerrero, known as Larry G. With health and strength, I should be back here tomorrow morning. Remember, have a good day, it's very hot. So try to stay cool, umbrella, sunglasses, rag, water, get now a shade. I mean, this heat is real. Till tomorrow morning, under the people and save the people.
Wake up, Billy. Wake up, Billies. 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 Another day is here. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Billies. Wake up, Billies. Voice our opinion and place your calling. WB. Be yourself, see yourself, this is a show by people. Believe our hopes are to needless reason. Nobody feel left out, is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and